You actually helped kick us off the UpLevel event series during the pandemic when we were calling on different colleagues and leaders to bring some of their guidance and wisdom during those early days where everybody was just in it. And so thank you for the contribution you've made to date to, well, it's not just to this podcast, but to my life. And I know that this is going to come out as we talk. So the stories will come out. So folks who are listening, Joni Mar is one of my very first coactive trainers. She is one of my beloved elders, and she is a master certified coach. You heard it all in the bio. But beyond that, she's a beautiful human who we're going to tell you about some of the origin stories as we go. So Joni, in this context of the ROI of coaching in the workplace, you are one of my colleagues who went first, who brought coaching inside organizations, who's been steadfast in consistently bringing in coaching as a methodology to grow leaders, to support organizations, to run more effectively, to be more profitable. How do you define coaching?
Yes, well, I probably disarm the participants when we're doing a coach training inside an organization, because one of the things I say is coaching is two human beings completely unmasked, having an honest, authentic conversation for the benefit of one person, which is the coachee. But the coach gets like 1,000 times more back by being there, witnessing this human being and their spirit come alive, their genius just kind of like open up, and just the fulfillment of being a supporter in somebody else's growth and development.
Okay, I just feel like I need to go there right now because I remember a process coaching course, which is the 4th course in the coactive curriculum. And you and Signe Wilson were my trainers. And you had me on the center of the floor, getting in touch with what I can't be with. That was one of the most transformative moments of my life. And it continues to grow me, work me, influence me.
How?
Well, there is another Little Sass book that's all about loneliness. And I haven't had capacity yet to fully birth it. It's written, it's illustrated, and it's dedicated to you and Signe.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wow. Well, Christy, I'm just, first of all, blown away. And that's not where I expected this to go, because I'm thinking about you on the floor in that process course, sitting on the floor. And I knew there's so much in this human being, and like wanting to squeeze it out like toothpaste, all of your goodness, your beauty, and your innovation. I tell you, you are a woman who, when you say you want to manifest something or make something happen, boom, there it is. Like UpLevel, this organization. Secondly, the podcast, right? Oh, I'm going to just try this pilot. And now look at you. I should be interviewing you.
Well, you are actually a CBC broadcast journalist. That's where you started your coaching. So I'm sure we'll share that baton. But thank you. Thank you for seeing me that day. That's almost 2 decades ago. It was 2007. And what I couldn't be with is loneliness. And I think I forgot to say that context, that there's another book on that emotion. I still struggle with being with loneliness, but your way of being with me, I mean, it was fierce. Joni, folks, this is a fierce coach. She is going to hold you far bigger than you hold yourself. And you are holding me fiercely in that you were giving me experience of what I couldn't be with, like to really tap into the loneliness. And it transformed me, and it continues to. I'm still working on it.
Yes, it is a lifelong journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
However, I hope that you have a lot more capacity and compassion for yourself.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
And I know that actually you being with this more, you have more capacity for others in your life.
Yes. Well, that's one of I think the reasons why us and our colleagues do this work, because yes, we get to serve others and grow them, but we are continually growing because we have to, like you said, to grow our capacity to serve more. Joni, what got you into this profession? What was the bridge from journalism and all the other fascinating things you've done before this profession?
Yeah, thank you. Well, really, coaching isn't much different than being a journalist, except instead of interrogating people with, an assumption, now I actually have to put the assumption aside and be very curious. My background is brain and behavior. I have a psychology degree, and I really use that in my journalism, right? To really understand what was the motivator. And that's really what we do in coaching, right? What motivates you, and bringing to the surface so that somebody can look at, oh yeah, what is motivating me? Because it's often unconscious.
So how did you find the Coactive Training Institute? Like, how did you get your training? You got a psychology degree and then...
Yeah. Well, yes. And then I was a journalist.
Yeah.
And then I was going through a divorce, actually. And I decided I had to transform my entire life. I had 2 young children, and I didn't want to go back to university. And I thought, well, what could I do? And so I went to a career counseling program, and they said, there's really nothing you could do with all of your training. There's very limited things you could do, which one would be a professional speaker, but there's no way I wanted to be away from the kids. So this woman offhandedly said, she was the career counselor, I've been taking these coaching courses and it sounds like it might be a fit for you. So I did do a lot of research, and then I went to the fundamentals, which was money back guarantee. And still to this day, 24 years later, it's still money back guarantee. And day 2 of the 3-day program, I went, that is my new career. How do I do what they're doing? And how do I become one of them? And so 3 years later, I became a faculty member of the Coactive Training Institute. I met amazing people like our colleagues, and then had participants like yourself. And it gets better and better with every year. No kidding.
What do you most love about this profession?
There are no 2 human beings that are the same. So every conversation with every human being is completely different. So I have to be awake and present with that person in that moment. So it demands a lot of me, and it's always exciting and inspiring, because that's how human beings are when you see the best in them.
And did you always love humans like the way that you do and the way that you just described?
No, I didn't, because I didn't love myself.
Okay, what can you share about that journey?
Well, I have my own coach to thank, who I worked with for 12 years.
Wow.
I was not able to receive myself. So I grew up in a world where, and in a culture, I'll say in my family culture, where you're as good as what you do. So I was always chasing, okay, I've got, to get love, I have to be better. I have to perform. I have to get an A. Oh, A is not good enough. I got to get A+, etc. A lot of it was in my own head, but I was socialized that way. That's the way, just the family was organized. Yeah. And of course, it's intergenerational. And so I had to break that for myself.
And so how is coaching, both offering it, training people in it, and receiving it, how has that helped you break that generational trauma, if I may, or wound? Maybe that's a better word.
Yeah, wound. It's true. And, we are all, and I still am wounded, and I keep having to recover. But having the grace and the compassion for someone else who's hard on themselves. So I work with really driven, high-performing leaders who are just always as good as the last thing, and I got to be better. So they're always pushing harder, and losing sight of their whole life, because it's only one part, and this is how they define themselves, and that's how I define myself.
So because you've had this lived experience, it makes you a really powerful leader, coach, trainer, facilitator for that particular audience because you've walked in those shoes.
I try,
Yeah.
um, and I hope also that they can see that relationship is just as important as getting those results, because oftentimes they come because they damage relationships.
Yeah.
Or they don't understand what's happened. They can't understand or see that maybe they've stepped all over someone in order to get their own personal needs met, which is, I've got to win.
Yeah. Well, can we talk about this in the context being an Asian immigrant to, well, you weren't specifically, but your grandmother, oh my goodness, and the story is so inspiring. If you will be willing to share a little bit about your lineage, and then let's navigate to what's inspired you to bring this work into Asia, because clearly there's a link. So please tell us that story.
Mm. Well, I'm fifth generation Canadian. And so my grandmother was born here, but growing up, she was told she wasn't Canadian. And she's a phenomenal matriarch of our family. She unfortunately passed in January. But this woman, my grandmother, she's just still influences me today. She's so inspiring, strong and feisty, yet so loving and caring and intuitive. Like really honestly, it's like she is the coactive model. If I could, I mean,
Yeah.
She just is able to be present with you, and she remembers everything. And she's gone through so many hardships as a widow in the 1940s, raising 6 children on her own. I mean, as a single mom myself, I know how hard that is.
Wow.
I cannot imagine what it would have been like back in those days when Chinese were not allowed to go to university, really were not employable, and how she did it and did it with such dignity.
What were some of the qualities you saw in her that you believed helped her to navigate that?
She believed in herself, that she could do it. And she just put her head down and just did it. She never complained. And, when you have 6 humans to feed, you do what it takes.
You do what it takes.
So exactly.
So what's the connection here between your work around bringing coaching and coactive into Asia?
That I actually haven't, here's the best I can do, because I don't know why I have this strong calling, except for that my great grandfather was a missionary from China, came through Hong Kong to Canada, and I'm completing the loop, the circle. So I'm bringing this technology back there.
I just got a full body chills and full body buzz. What's it like to be completing an ancestral lineage circle?
We relaunched the first English fundamentals course, coaching course in Shanghai. I had been going back and forth commuting every month for the last 10 years. And, of course, during COVID, we hadn't led in-person courses. And some of those participants had waited 4 years for this course.
Wow.
So I just feel there's a need and there's a want. I'm not imposing it. They want it. And I could see them in the classroom, all sitting there like really, present and engaged and focused, hanging on every word. What is this? How do I use it? Many of the people want to increase their emotional intelligence, their social intelligence, their ability to connect with their families and their employees at work. Because most of the people who are in our program are professional, I'll say mostly HR leaders. And they really want to make a difference in their organizations. They're working in multinational organizations.
So what's it been like for you to be a shepherd of this work for these people and for this culture?
So I'll just tell on myself. Remember how I told you how it was hard for me to love myself? I hear you saying these words and they feel too grand. So I'm a bit awkward with that.
Oh,
I've been placed there, and it feels like I'm being well used. It feels like it's the right thing, and I feel like this is what I should be doing.
mm.
Yeah.
What's moving you right now about this quest you're on?
We have this technology, and so many people lead and live through fear and scarcity, and they really don't need to. And I know you, Christy, when you get to this place where, you're living from a place of purpose, things come to you. Life is easier. The right people are brought to you at the right time. It's very clear what should be done. And then, you get sort of like notifications along the way that you're on the right path, signals.
Yeah.
And it's sad for me that people have to live without knowing it. So to me, this is so important to get this into their hands if they want it. Like, we don't have to evangelize. They don't have to take it, but it is available.
It's so important what you're doing. And you're definitely the right person to be bringing it in. And it's been a decade that you've been on this quest. So from this here now in what are we, 2024, if you look back at Joni Mar in 2014, what would you say to that leader, that coach, that human about the quest she was preparing to go on, the journey she was packing her bags for?
Well, that's a great question, Christy Mann, because I came to you. I came to you and some of the other leaders and elders, people I respected in CTI, and asked if I could open Hong Kong. Could I, launch this there? And not you, but some of the other people were saying, we've tried for 5 years. We can't do it. But I just felt like we had to be there. It was hard. It took 2 years, but we got our first fundamentals launched. We led 3 in-person, complete series before the pandemic. And then we had to move to online. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I just thought, what am I doing? This is off the side of my desk. This is not something I'm paid for, but why do I feel like I need to do this?
Yeah.
Then I didn't get my answer for several years later when I heard back from the participants who had gone all the way through to get their CPCC, right? That's a year's worth of training in our program. And half of them did it just so they could be better parents because they didn't really know how to connect and reach out to their children.
I got the full body chills again. So this is an important thing I want to pull out for listeners. So if you are inside an organization and you're a decision maker about bringing coach training in for your managers or individual contributors, having your managers and leaders feel more equipped to be better parents is going to make them more effective leaders and managers. It's going to improve the workplace exponentially. So Joni just gave us some hardcore data there. That's incredible. That's so inspiring.
Yeah, those people were so inspiring. Those participants, those parents. I know they're also going to be better partners. They're also going to be better leaders because the people who come to our courses are leaders. And so what they learn and how to be with their children, they will be with their staff, their employees, their peers. Yeah. So, really, the work that each one of us does has a ripple effect to everyone we touch.
Everyone.
Yeah.
So
could I add something there, Christy?
Please add.
Because it is not lost on me, and I would like the listeners to get this too, is I think when I do this work, I'm thinking about the next generations. So those children of those parents are going to be employees at one point or leaders. So how they were parented is how they're going to lead and how they're going to be in relationship with other people in the workplace. So we are supporting the next generation to be successful.
That's so important. And I really, at UpLevel, we really want to inspire more organizations to think that way. How are we preparing the next generation by what we offer our employees, how we grow them as humans, as leaders, how we support them in their well-being? We know that coaching, whether they're receiving it, there's coaching services available to them, or they're being trained in it, it is going to make the work environment more engaging, more productive, but from a healthy place. So,
Yes.
I'm just always plugging the ROI of coaching in the workplace. Like it's like an octopus and there are so many tentacles to it. Some that, because the profession is still somewhat new, even though we're into its third decade, there's not enough data yet. And you're just talking about this generation that's receiving the training who are going to parent the next generation. So, yeah.
Yeah. There is a, for the current leaders, why this kind of approach in leadership is also important is because we never had a workforce that spans so many generations. And so if I think about the boomers who are very senior and experienced in their role, they don't want to be told what to do. But if you use a coach approach and ask them, what's fulfilling for you, or how could you be more effective, or, how can you use these last few years to leave a legacy? Using that approach really speaks to them. Then on the other end, Gen Z, and again, it's not like the whole generation is this way, but those who grown up as the first digital natives, they know all that they need to know, and they could look it up. So really what they like is to be supported in terms of what is your purpose and what do you want to accomplish and how, what does success look like to you versus let me tell you what it should look like. So honestly, this works for all people because all of us want to be valued and respected.
How, there's two places I want to go. Okay. So first I want to take it back to your grandmother.
Okay.
113 years old when she passed. My goodness, what a tremendous legacy. And you articulated a little bit about maybe a wound in the family. How has serving in this way and doing work in this way in Asia over the past decade supported you to heal that wound?
Serving others. And recognizing that I do have value to bring and it's just in my being. I don't have to actually achieve something, don't have to win something, don't have to get an A. Not that she ever said that to me, by the way. So I don't want to, mischaracterize her. But I think that that's the milieu that I will say as a Chinese Canadian, I was raised in. So friends, even their families, and of course, not every family is that way, but in my family, yeah, and of course, as immigrants, so my mother, on my mother's side, she's a second generation Canadian, and I think when you're trying to find your footing in a culture where you're the minority, and it's not equitable. You do what you need to do to survive and to be accepted. So I assimilated a lot instead of standing up for who I am. Yeah.
And so the work that you've been doing, what I'm hearing, it's having you reclaim a lot of your identity, and specifically, like you're in Asia doing this work. Is that a fair statement? Or
yes, and it's complex because I really am a foreigner in both lands.
Yeah.
Over there, I'm not Chinese, and over here, I look like I'm not Canadian. So it's the holding the paradox and being okay with holding the paradox. Yeah.
Which is
either or.
So significant in the times that we're living through right now, right? Supporting people, humans, leaders to grow our capacity to hold paradox. Yeah. How are you seeing that coming into play? That like capability, if you will, inside leaders or with leaders inside organizations, being able to hold paradox, being able to hold complexity.
Yeah. So I think we go to where our comfort zone is. And for many leaders, it's get the results, get the business results. And then my job is secure. I know where I fit. I'm in control. Relationships are a lot more complex. So I can't quite do that as effectively or quickly or as expediently as I like. So the paradox of holding results and relationships together, that is sort of like the best of everything. And it's of course not always 50-50. It's what is needed in that moment and being able to be fluid.
Mm-hmm. We need more of this everywhere. I feel like this has been a big place where humanity has fallen down, our inability to do what you just said. So more of this work. It's not easy, and it takes a real level of consciousness. And with consciousness, there's like a level of energy that's needed to hold the pose, if you will, to really hold that pose, hold the focus, hold the screen. And it takes time to build that energy and that muscle to be looking there.
Yes. And I think what a coach approach, whether you're receiving coaching, whether you're giving coaching, whether you're just getting coach training inside an organization, gives you that pause. If we could just stretch out the time between some incident happening and our response to it, the space in between those two things is what gives us the moment to recover from our limbic system back to our prefrontal cortex and make a conscious and intentional choice. But our fast-paced organizational, like the speed of things, the complexity, the stress, makes us just like, okay, I got to just get it done. And we're not playing a longer game where we're developing our relationships with people so that we have not just one way of looking at things and solving things. We can go out to a community or a team and have different perspectives. It might take longer, but we definitely get a more conscious, intentional, and probably a better result because it had all this diversity that was considered in making the result.
Beautifully said. I'm still pulling the thread of how I see the work that you do is healing that lineage wound, because this, who you've become in the work that you do and that you offer is a model of what you just said. Like, one of the things I so admire about you is that you always stay in relationship when there might be bumps in the road or potential conflict, or you ensure that all the stakeholders are aware of this thing's happening right now. And you come in with a very neutral lens. But what you're steadfast on, from my perspective, is the transparency and ensuring all stakeholders are aware this is happening. This could have this impact, and it's like you raise the flags, and the impact of that on me, and I know many of our colleagues and the folks that you serve, is that I could trust Joni Mar. You are so trustworthy. You lead with such integrity, such grace, and the relationship piece, like you just described. So I'm just also seeing how you continue to heal this wound by who you be and how you show up, not just what you're offering and you're teaching.
I just made a connection in your coaching there, Christy. So it's the wound of shame. The shame of not being a white male, perhaps, in a culture where that is the dominant
identity, the dominant identity. Yeah. Yeah.
And being raised as, like, don't make too much noise, don't draw attention to yourself, you don't want to create any backlash.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to be able to step into my own space and say, actually, I do belong here and I am okay. I can be safe and trust myself. That's been a very long journey.
Mm.
And I wouldn't doubt that many other human beings of many other cultures have something like that going on inside for whatever reason, because we all are human and we all have some sort of wound.
Most definitely. Most
Not being
definitely.
good.
Oh yeah. I mean, one of my saboteurs, her name's Miss Perfect Pants, and some of our listeners would have heard about her. There's a similar energy where it's just like, yeah, it's dotting I's, crossing T's, making sure everything's perfect, and constant doing and generating. And there can be such a negative impact of I get burnt out. Those around me may not feel like they're in relationship with me anymore because she's driving the bus and forcing like her level of excellence and her pace onto others. So yes, we are all working to heal the wounds, whether they come from our culture, our family. Like it's just the systems that we're raised in and how it impacts our identity. I mean, it's significant. I'm so glad that you found this work. It found you. And just to see over the past 25 years, right? You're coming to 25 years of how you've been expressing it in your unique way is super inspiring. Okay, so this is a good segue into talking about one of the exciting new ventures you're on. You are developing a global leadership program for 1,000 leaders per year. It's a 2-year program, and it has as its red thread conscious leadership, which I'm really curious about that, and the universal leadership model, and applying a coaching style leadership. And it's all been delivered coactively. So please share more about that. And in the context of what is the return on investment that this organization is seeing and that these leaders going through the program are seeing?
Thank you. It's been 2 years in development. And one of my key KPI, I'll say, is that as we're designing this program, all of us actually have to be conscious in our leadership as we're designing so that we're passing this on to the learners when they come to the program. So what I mean by that is we're very conscious about what we're saying to one another. We're in right relationship with one another. We're not just getting the project done.
Beautiful.
We're in our first round of delivery here. We just started delivering October 2023, and we deliver in Asia, North America, and Europe. And the leaders are saying, oh my gosh, I need to be a leader. I thought I actually just needed to hit my targets. Oh, I'm supposed to actually develop my team. Oh, wow. I just never realized that actually I have a role and a responsibility inside this organization to develop those who are junior than me, not just actually hit my own goals.
Mm-hmm.
Success is the team dynamic. So what we're trying to do using the universal leadership model and this conscious leadership is take a pause and what are you trying to achieve? What is the we? What is the system needs? What, not just what you need or what your goals and deliverables are. We're also using a coach approach to talk about how you support others to grow and develop. You're not the leader in front telling others how they should grow and develop.
Amazing.
So we're completely trying to shift the mindset of these leaders. And these are senior managers. So, they're not junior leaders or high potentials.
So how's it going? What are you noticing as the account holder of this significant contract?
but they're very skeptical at first because it's completely different from what they have been told up to this point. The participants, the learners. And it's taking some time to shift the culture. This is a very large organization. It's not easy to change. And I'll say that it's been a little tough to be out in front.
Well, and I'd be curious if there's anything, maybe it's too early, anything you can share about delivering in these different regions, any themes that you're noticing?
Themes. I'd say that everyone comes in a little bit like, prove it to me or show me.
Yeah.
And different regions actually receive it differently. Like I noticed that Asia is much more receptive. North America might be a little bit more skeptical. So we just have to meet the learners where they are. That's the key, is we're not trying to convince them. They have to see the benefit for themselves. And that really is a coach approach. And that's why we're delivering it in this way, that they get to test it. They get to try it. We give them the theories. They practice it. So it's very immersive and experiential. And at the end, I'd say that, there are some early adopters and there are some people that, they'll have to try it back in their role to see the difference, test it for themselves.
Yeah.
So you're right. It is a little bit early. We don't have a lot of data, but so far the feedback has been excellent. And they're just grappling with it. So if we think about conscious leadership for a moment, most of us are reactive by nature because the brain is trying to protect us. So that it's healthy for them to be skeptical and to not trust it and to do their own research. But when they buy in, they will have bought in on their own accord. And that's what we want.
What are the measurements of success for this program?
Retention in the organization, not just for the leaders that are there, but also their teams. Balancing relationship and results, like I was saying, so that, this particular organization is well known for having good relationships with its clientele. So maybe even more effectively in their relationships with their stakeholders, external, but more importantly, also how they treat their internal teams, not burning them out, keeping them whole, keeping the system healthy, understanding the dynamic that's going on, and being outward looking, not just inward focused.
Brilliant. That's the ROI of coaching in the workplace right there, right? Retention, having people focus on relationship, not just results, but being able to hold both, and more self-awareness so that they're aware of their impact so that they can lead more effectively and adopt different styles for different audiences, different people, different cultures. This is super exciting. Congratulations on this engagement.
Yes. Yeah. It's been very rewarding.
What's been rewarding about it?
Well, I'm sort of like a junkie for self-development, personal growth, and I have had to really keep recovering to consciousness myself because I go reactive. I'm on a global team, so our calls are midnight till 2 a.m. and 2-3 times a week. And then I work in the Pacific time zone. So, I'm getting up for an 8 o'clock meeting. So it is being very taxing, very stressful for me. I'm sleep deprived as well as I'm doing my other projects. So yeah. I keep having to, check myself, course correct. And the key is doing it without shaming myself.
There you go. There's the healing, the lineage wound there again. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that because I know for the past decade, especially during the pandemic, you were leading courses in the Asian time zone. So, and you're saying you're sleep deprived. We had 2 weeks recently, Rachel and I, where we were leading courses in Asia. And I was just thinking, this is when I reached out to you. I'm like, how does Joni do this like for a decade? Because I kind of like lost the plot a little bit, like the lack of sleep and just feeling The best way I can describe it is I felt kind of hungover a lot, and I don't even drink anymore. So I was like, this sucks. So how are you navigating? Because we do have people listening who are holding or intending to hold global accounts, global projects, work in different time zones because they have a quest like you did to serve different audiences from where they live. How are you doing this? How are you doing this? And are you doing it in wellness?
Great question, Christy. So before I would just force myself, this is pre-healed or pre-healed. I would just force myself, okay, I got to get up. I got to start my 8:00 calls, blah, 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 do my day. And then, I have this mission. So I'm doing this off the side of my plate or my desk, and I'm just going to do it. Now with grace for myself, okay, I have to go for a walk. I have to take a nap in the afternoon. I'm going to eat a specific kind of food at dinner. So my husband's fantastic. He makes me, eat this huge salad, and just making sure I'm making healthy choices. It does cramp the social part of my life because I'm here in the evenings, and that's been hard. But once you get on a mission and once you're invested into a program with all these other stakeholders, I'm pretty committed.
Yeah.
So I will say that I will give myself the day off, or I will. And when I travel, I'll try and take 2 or 3 days off, whatever destination I'm in. And it really does feed me.
Yeah.
The people who I'm working with in Asia are so grateful and so appreciative. It just doesn't feel like work. So, yeah, I'm trying, Christy.
Yeah, and when I get from that,
tell you otherwise.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there'll always be the critics. But what I hear is like the lesson I'm pulling from is our purpose, our missions. Our quests we can really let them fuel us to help us find the energy, the right partners. What are the practices that this quest will have me practice so that I am in integrity with even what I'm teaching, right? That's what I hear you've been doing. And you've been working this way for a decade. So I know you've been like allowing yourself to be a learner in it and sometimes do it brilliantly, sometimes not so brilliantly. But it's really great to see you in this place. It's like you are in a whole nother vantage point of your quest from when I spoke to you last. Like I see you now up on the balcony looking at it. I'm assuming there's like more account managers and people holding relationships that you've probably infused your Joni Marness into them, right? So you could step back a little bit more. Anyways, that's what I'm making up, and that's what I'm hoping is happening.
Yes.
For you. Yeah.
Yes. More into managing the whole system as opposed to perhaps being on the ground. So we have lead faculty who are managing. In fact, we have one going on in Paris this week. And I have somebody there who is taking responsibility on the ground. So that helps a tremendous amount. But let me tell you, when I added this third region in Europe, I mean, I just didn't have the bandwidth for all of this. This was really hard.
Yeah.
And, I've had to go to more workouts and doing them on Zoom with my trainer,
Amazing.
Trying to keep all those balls in the air. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Totally understand what all these leaders are going through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's just it. So for our listeners who are practitioners and like consultants and coaches using Joni's experience as motivation, it's like, well, when we're juggling a quest like this that's global, you're getting a lived experience of the folks that you're working with, which can really help create that connection. You can bring in your personal stories, which we know in this work is so important. Joni, we're getting to the tail end, but I didn't want to leave our talk today without honoring your book that you co-wrote and co-authored with one of our beloved colleagues who's no longer with us, Leslie Lipinski. And the book, which I know when I started coaching, the Inspired Business Approach was something I read. I went through Leslie's course. It's a practical business guide for entrepreneurs, also an American University business textbook. Just tell us a little bit about that, like co-authoring it with Leslie, and like where are you now in your authorship? Because there's like so many more books that I think can be birthed from Joni Mar. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay. Here's the true story about this. This book is now very old. It's 2006 was our original publication date. And I couldn't have done it without Leslie. Leslie really was love, like embodied. Every Monday she'd call me and she'd say, so, where are you with the book? Because I just would procrastinate on getting the chapter done. And we both were serial entrepreneurs, and we really wanted to get this out for coaches. How could you build a coaching business using, just our experience? And quite honestly, I took 2 months off work and sat on the back patio and just did it.
Wow.
And it's done with clip art and, just like think about 2006, what we were doing back then.
Yeah.
But honestly, it just, struck a chord. We wrote it in our own voice. It just was like, tried to be something that just didn't appear in the marketplace. And just like, it was just, hey, we have this thing. It is a mission. We're just going to put it out there and see what happens. And so that's all we did. And we did not expect it was going to turn into a program, going to be accepted by a university, et cetera, et cetera. So honestly, it's just following, that voice inside of you that says this needs to be out in the world and just seeing where it goes. And so here we are. I sold another copy just the other day. It's just like, how many years now?
Amazing.
Almost, yeah.
What a legacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great book. So I do, we'll put it in the show notes for folks who might be interested in it, but and then just like a shout out, like you did to Leslie. We're so blessed to have colleagues like each other to co-create our missions and our purpose in the work. And I think that's part of what we're trying to do inside organizations is help individuals, managers, leaders get connected to their values and purpose so that the work that they're doing is coming from that, like that type of energy, and how does their individual purpose and values connect back to the organization, and who can they co-create with? Who in the organization or external clients, vendors can they co-create with? That's one way for a more, collaborative, coactive world.
Yes. And as you say that, Christy, what I'm thinking about is all the work that I've been able to create is not just from me. It's ideas from you, our other colleagues. Everyone in our faculty community is very generous, very coactive in their heart, willing to share and give without expectation of anything in return. So we value the relationship. So you and I have the lived experience of having peers and colleagues who value relationships, and they get the results. In fact, actually, the relationships help to multiply the results in my experience.
So on that note, like what are some of your final words, guidance to this theme of the return on investment in coaching? Like why would an organization make this investment from the lips of Joni Mar?
Well, this not for me, but at least 2 studies that I have seen show that coaching returns up to 800% return on investment. I mean, that's a reason to invest in itself. But also you get a return on impact and effectiveness. Leaders being more conscious, they act more intentionally. So there's less that they need to clean up afterwards. They're like what you say at the outset is actually more intentional and I hope more authentic as well. Another thing I would say is that the impact they have is they're more intentional in being a role model and in guiding other people in how to lead more effectively and to be an authentic leader.
There you go. You heard it here, folks. Right from Joni Mar, the ROI of coaching in the workplace, and so many other other important drops of wisdom. Joni, thank you for being with us today. I adore you. I love you. I respect you so much. How can people stay connected to you and learn more about your great work?
Well, let's see. I guess LinkedIn. I am on Instagram. I think it's Joni.Mar. I'm not really sure, but that's fun to be on Instagram. LinkedIn, I guess, is probably the best way. Yeah.
And we'll put all that in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Christy, I just really want to appreciate you, the work you, Rachel, are doing, just who you are as a human being, and, our connection over the last 20 years. Yeah. You're a very special human being.
Mm-hmm. I love you, Joni. I miss you. I want to get to Vancouver eventually and see you. Or maybe we'll find each other in Asia. Maybe that might be more accessible. I don't know, but
yeah, or maybe Costa Rica.
You can. I think we'll do that. We'll do that because I'll be here. We can have a retreat and just reconnect.
What I love about Instagram and social media is that I can keep connected to all of our colleagues globally. And we really are so blessed to have one another. And so I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joni.